Authorization can be a little bit tricky, and there's going to be a lot of moving parts. So I'm gonna try to go a little bit slower. So please, if you want to skip ahead or make it faster, please feel free to do so. I just want to make sure that everyone gets it correct. There's going to be a lot of moving pieces, a lot of files added. So gonna go slow and just make sure that everyone gets it. So one of the things that I want you to do, and I'll actually make this a lot bigger for the sake of us viewing this, is we're going to be using Auth.js, and it's available for a bunch of different frameworks, but most importantly, it's for our Next.js application. So if you just went to auth.js.dev, and if you hit get started, you'll be brought here. We're going to be working on Next.js, and so we're just going to follow through the instructions. Their documentation's pretty good, so we're going to leverage as much of this as possible. So first, we're going to do an installation. So we're just going to copy this. We should shut down our server. So hit Control-C in your terminal, and it should shut down the server. We're just going to be installing a bunch of stuff and messing about with some of the configuration. So, just in case there are any problems, I don't foresee there being any, but just in case, we'll just shut it down and turn it back on later. So we're going to install Auth beta, or a Next Auth beta here. Let's see. We're going to set up our environment by creating or running npx auth secret here, and it's going to create an environment variable, auth secret. So we already have .env.local, so that's all this command is going to do, is just generate a environment variable for us to be able to use it. So you can see that it said added auth secret, just like it says here, to our environment.local. So if we go to our environment.local, we can see that it added an auth secret. I'm just going to hit enter on this to kind of separate it out. You can even say it even tells you in this little comment here that it was added by us running npx auth secret. So that's great. Let's move on to the next step. Okay. It's actually funny because I know what I'm going to be doing in the future. This is kind of a little bit backwards. So I'm actually going to add this part first. So we're going to skip this for now and start with this here. And we're going to actually create inside of our app here. So if you need to, click on app to highlight it and then right click on it to so that you make sure that you're in the right folder. Just like it specifies here, we need to create this file structure and then add in this file here. So we're going to do app API. We're going to, whoops, not that. We're going to add a folder and put in auth. And inside of it, we're going to have a dynamic route of next auth. And then inside of this next auth folder, we're going to do route.ts. So just make sure that at the top here, you can see the path to route.ts, source, app, API, auth, dynamic route of spread, next auth, ... next auth. So 3 dots, and then route.ts. So I know I'm going a little bit slow, but I just want to make sure that you get it right. You don't put it in the wrong folder. The naming conventions matter, so we just want to make sure that you put it in the right folder so that you get what you want. And we're going to just copy paste what they have in there. Now you're gonna have an error here because we're not implemented in this auth file yet. We're gonna get that in a second. But one of the reasons why we're delaying is because in this providers here, they don't actually they don't specify one. And we're going to be obviously using GitHub and Google as a provider. And so not providing any providers here is wrong. And so I'm just going to try to account for that. And so we're going to do this step, create a middleware. So all the way out here, I'm just trying to get all the steps out of the way before we actually do the providers, just so that we don't have to worry about it. So create a new file out here at the base level of the project, and just create a middleware.ts. Make sure that you name it correctly. Copy that, paste it in there. Again, it's asking for auth. We don't have auth. Oh, whoops, sorry. Middleware does not go in this base level. It goes in the source. Sorry. I noticed the @ there. @ wouldn't be relevant for stuff on the outside here. It would be relevant within the source folder. So that goes there. And so great. Let's actually use this, go into this authentication thing. We're going to be using OAuth. And GitHub is actually the simplest example. So I'll show GitHub first. So first we're going to have to set up an OAuth application within our GitHub. So I'm going to go to my GitHub here, and we're going to go into settings here. So once you log in, you can create your own account into GitHub if you don't have one already. This is my GitHub. Let's see. You're going to go and do developer settings all the way at the bottom. So again, if you go into your settings, right, hit your little icon here, go to settings, scroll all the way down to developer settings. We're going to create a new OAuth app, right? And I already have a few OAuth apps here. So we're just going to create a new one just for Poke CRM here. The URL for this will be, for now, https://localhost 3000. And our authorization callback URL, they provide it right here. So actually, we're going to copy this, put this here, and then add this to the end of our URL there. And then we're going to hit register application. Great. So we now have our OAuth app here. And here's the secret. So you're going to need to generate it. I'm just going to get rid of this. So we're going to generate it. Oh, I actually need to provide my password. So we'll pause real quick. So after logging in, you'll see all this stuff. So we're going to need this client ID, and we're also going to need the secret. Remember, copy it. Make sure you don't lose this. You don't refresh the page accidentally. You're going to have to generate a whole new one and delete an old one. So it's just a tedious process. So don't do that to yourself. Make sure that you get it right. We're just going to create a environment variable here. It doesn't need to be a next public one because we're not actually using this environment variable inside of our code. It's going to be done at a configuration level. So we're going to do auth GitHub ID, and then we're just going to copy this. It doesn't have a convenient copy button for that, unfortunately. And then auth GitHub secret, and we're going to hit the copy button here and then paste this in. All right, so that's going to be auth ID and auth secret, and that's what we're going to need to put inside of our oh, you can actually see they explain it here inside of our environment local. Later on, when we set up our providers, we're going to need to provide it. You can see here, this is one way of doing it. I actually prefer putting it into its own configuration file. So we're going to do that. We're going to do auth.config.ts. I'm going to create that file there. And inside of it, what we're going to do is, and let me just check to make sure we don't have to install anything extra. I don't think I saw any installation thing. So we should be good there. So what we're going to do is import GitHub from next auth providers/GitHub. Great. We're going to import type next auth config from next auth. Great. We're going to export default. We're going to do providers GitHub. So we're going to do kind of match what they write here. And we're going to say satisfies next next auth config. So we're going to have more here to do more configs go here. First, we're going to actually have to set up a database to catch all of our user information. So when we actually create our database, we're going to add it here. But for now, we're not going to worry about that just yet. We're going to provide the pages. So we already said that we are going to... so if you want to create a custom error page for login errors, you can do that. I'm just going to have it redirect back to login so that, users will fix whatever they log in within the login page, and we can handle the error checking within there. If you want to create a custom 404 page or, 401 unauthorized page, feel free to do so. I'm not going to do it for this tutorial. But, I think mostly, hey, just put in your username and password. Or actually, sorry, there is no username and password. So any error that's going to occur is going to be handled at the Google/GitHub level, right? If you entered in your username and password wrong within Google and GitHub, they're going to handle all the error checking on that end. Really, if there's any error issue here, it's because you as the developer didn't set up one of these things correctly. And so we're really there's not going to be much error checking on the user in this part of the application. Okay, so another thing that I noticed while I was looking through this thing just to double check, I actually noticed this origin here. The origin was actually just supposed to be our URL here, so don't add in that extra. So make sure that you go back to your auth application settings and don't put in origin. So just remember that when we add Google, because it might say that. You just want to be able to provide this extra URL snippet here to our local host. Don't add in the origin. The origin is this part, and just because we're in development right now, we're using localhost 3000. When you actually have a domain connected via DNS, you'll replace that with whatever, right? If we did poke crm.com, which might be live by the end of this tutorial, we would just go back into here, replace this with our URL. So cool. Update the application. Make sure that you update it. No changes to secret. As you can see, the last few here matches the last few here. So there are no changes to the ID or to the secret, so you don't have to worry about that. All right, let's make sure that we connect Google now, which Google's developer experience is awful. So make sure that you're really closely following on this. Okay, so just finding actually the console within Google to actually create our OAuth sign-in with Google is actually a pain. If you try to look it up, Google Cloud Console, it's like the second option. It's not even the second option down. It's the third option down. You actually need this, the Google Cloud Console, and when you go into it, right, and I've been logged in before, but it'll actually have a separate button to actually log you in. So you hit go to my console, right, we'll open up a new tab here, which I already had open, and it'll take you to this, but I believe if you don't have any applications, you're just looking for whatever gets you a new project. I guess if I switch to this other account, let's see here. Oh no, I already actually had an account. Let me see if I can try to delete this somehow. Blech. Anyways, I really don't enjoy working with Google, but it is the one important one. So I'm sure it'll appear something here. Inside the Google Cloud Console, what you're going to do is you're going to hit this little drop-down menu here, or not drop-down, little modal pop-up here, and you're going to hit New Project. And you only have a certain quota, but I'm sure you're not going to hit that. But what we're going to do is just create a project name, Poke CRM. Most people don't have a organization within their personal Gmail account, so don't worry about that. Just hit create. Wonderful. It's creating, I suppose. Okay, great. So once it finishes up here within the notifications, you're going to hit select project. So now you're selected. Then you go into the navigation menu. You're going to go into APIs and services, and you're going to look for OAuth consent screen here. So you're going to click on that. All right, great. We're here for OAuth consent screen. We're going to do external. We're going to hit create. There's a bunch of information here, but you're just focused on this middle area. Again, the developer experience is absolutely garbo, but is what it is sometimes. We're going to provide our app name, so Poke CRM here, which is the name of our application. Whatever email that you're registering this from is my personal email. So we're just going to apply that to the user support email here. Do not upload an app logo unless you're actually going to push this professionally. And honestly, for the most part, I don't even see a reason for you to do it. It's just tedious and extra work. Because if you upload a logo, they're going to have to do a check on you and your application, and it's just going to be a really long process. So just avoid all that. Do not provide an app logo. Don't. Yeah, we're not going to care about that portion. What we are going to worry about is this authorized domain. So just for our development here, we're going to do HTTP. Oh, actually, I might have added HTTPS over in the GitHub one now that I'm thinking about it. So let me check on that. Let's see. Domain must not. Oh, I guess not. Localhost 3000. Does that want to work? Must not specify the scheme. What is wrong? Let me check on this for a second. Lastly, we're going to add in our developers' contacts. So just ignore pretty much most of the things in the form except for the developer contact information, the app name, and the user support email. And so we're going to hit save and continue. We're not going to need any of these. We're not going to need this. And in the summary, just hit back to dashboard. And bada bing, bada boom, we should be all set. Next, we're going to have to create a credential here. And we're going to hit create credentials here. We're going to do OAuth client ID here. We're going to do a web application. The name of it will be Poke CRM. It's just internal. It's not actually going to be shown to the end user, so you don't have to really worry about what the name is. You can keep their name. But I'll just change it for myself. Here, and then, whoops, here we're going to do HTTP ://localhost 3000, and we're going to add in the same URI, funnily enough. Oh, actually, I just noticed I added in HTTPS here. Nope, it should just be HTTP. If we notice here, let me see, HTTP ://. Oh, right, I closed the server. But yes, I believe it's not HTTPS, it is HTTP. Okay, so we're just going to grab this callback URL, the same one that we put, whoops, we're going to the same one in which we put within our GitHub application here. We are just going to add it here to our Google Auth as well. So we're going to hit create. So before we go into do our login, I accidentally made a mistake here and wrote GitHub instead of Google. So we're going to save that here. And then now we have our ID and our secret. So now we can also add in Auth Google ID, which is this part here. And then Auth Google secret, which we will add in here. So great. Just make sure that you have your Auth Google ID, your Auth Google secret. Great. Now that we have these pieces, and now we're going to go back to Auth.js, and we are finally, if we go back to this installation and choose this portion here, let us actually create inside of our source level here. We do auth.ts. We will copy and paste this part in, but instead of passing in this object here, we are going to import, what are we importing? We're importing auth config from, I'll just do @auth config just to keep everything consistent. Oh, whoops, config, and I'll separate that out just for styling purposes. We're just going to pass in auth config here. Great. So instead of writing out this object within this folder, I just split it apart and put it inside of this auth configs here. I just think it's a little bit cleaner. Google, it's from the same spot. Thank you, Copilot. And we're going to add in Google to our providers here. Great. Let's see. Auth should be in effect now. I believe that if I just close this out, weird, cannot find at. I think that this is just an IntelliSense error. It should be able to see it because they're all at the same level here. So our auth was just provided. So yeah, that's just an IntelliSense error, I believe. Usually when you see cannot find module and all that type of stuff, it's more so an IntelliSense error. By the way, if you were actually concerned about it, I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of random errors all over the place. Let me just check. But you know, we're not nearly anywhere near done, so it doesn't matter too much. But just in case you're like wondering if we should correct any or like have any errors, right? Sometimes you're like, IntelliSense will show something, just do npm run build. If there are any errors, they'll pop up here. It's actually a good time to do like a little sanity check anyways before we start working in backend. That we just check everything. It runs a little bit. Let's see. Input and text area. I've actually just ran into this problem earlier. So this was a really interesting Shadcn bug. I think it's just with this current version. You might not see this in the future, but just in case you do, just change interface to type, I believe, and I think instead of doing extends, just do equal, and then remove this, and I believe that should clear up the error. Yep, so that cleared it up for that, and so we just need to do the same thing for the text area prop. So I believe this is just a bug with the recent version of Shadcn. It's been working spectacularly beforehand, but I think that they just made a mistake somewhere around here. So this will probably get changed in the future, but I just wanted to do all this to just showcase that we don't have this middleware error. And you can see, once I see that the static pages are generating, we pretty much are good. So yeah, there is no error. If I just closed and then restarted Poke CRM, the VS Code here, right? Closed and restarted it. Let it run a little bit. Close and then open middleware.tsc. There's no error. So that was just a little IntelliSense error. Great. We cleared down, button all this stuff up. I believe that we are basically all done with auth. It's just that when we collect people's user information that your GitHub and your Google login provides, usually it's your profile picture, your name, and your email. That's all that's provided to us. We need a way to be able to catch that. So now we're going to start building up our backend to collect that information and store it so that we can reuse it in the future. For our backend, there were a lot of different potential options, but I chose the ones that I think make the most sense in working together and are probably the easiest to use and set up. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be simple, and I'm going to try to go as slow, and I know that a lot of people were probably reeling after how long it took to get authorization, at least off the ground, not done yet. But, we're going to be doing the tail end of authorization here with setting up the backend. And so we're going to be using Neon to store our actual database. So we're going to be using a Postgres SQL database. And you might have seen that it notes that it's serverless, right? So this is just a wrapper around AWS, I believe. And so, all it's doing is it's just providing, without you needing to set up an active server, be able to interact with a database. To be able to communicate with our Postgres database without actually writing SQL, but to write something that's, at least looks like TypeScript, we're going to be using Drizzle to write basically TypeScript-like code to be able to interact with our Postgres database that's stored within Neon. In order to make API calls, we're going to be using the Hano backend framework, and you can see actually we'll be following this auth tutorial here to complete our auth. And lastly, we're going to be using Stack query to actually fetch the results of API calls that or the API calls that we want, and use Hano to manage those API calls. So great. These are basically the, whoops, did not mean to close that. I'll open that back up in a second. But Neon, Drizzle, Hano, which I accidentally just closed, and Stack query are the 4 pieces that we're going to be going through. Let's start with Neon. To get started with Neon, you just have to create a Neon account, get into your home page here, and you're going to see this little button here to create a new project. So we're going to hit New Project. You're going to come up with this little modal here to create your project. We're just going to add in our name here, Poke CRM. So whatever you named your project, feel free to put it in there. We're not going to touch anything else here. It actually confirms that it does use AWS here underneath the hood. So we're just going to create this project. We're going to hit skip for this. We don't need it for this particular project. What we're going to need is this little snippet here, and we can actually... we're just going to use the Postgres one here. You can hit copy that snippet, and then we're going to go into our environments.local here and create another variable, and we're going to call it database URL equals, and then paste it in. So, this is kind of smushed, but it should all be in one line, Postgres, blah, 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 all of that cool stuff. So cool. We have our Neon database created. We've added our URL here. Let's go back into the documentations. Just scroll down on a full screen. Or actually, we'll just do this. Show more. We're going to do Next.js here because that's the application that we're doing. Give me a second here. So because we're going to be using Drizzle, I think we're actually going to cap it off here because we've already created our database URL here. And because we're going to be using Neon with Drizzle, I think it would be a lot better if we start introducing or working with their Neon Postgres tutorial here because it has the right downloads and information here that's related to using Neon with Drizzle, because this one, you know, we're not using Drizzle here. So let's make sure that we're doing that. And so we're just going to take these two commands here, we're going to copy it, and we're going to paste them. So we're going to use Drizzle ORM here at Neon Database Serverless, and we're going to add to our dev dependencies Drizzle Kit. So we're just going to hit enter there. And wait for that to install for a second. While we're waiting for it to install, you know, you have a little brief explanation here about some of the things that we're going to be doing within our application. So we're going to need to create a Neon instance here, provide in our database URL, and then from that create a Drizzle instance, right, which we're going to be naming DB, and then from there we're going to be able to do SQL operations on our Neon database from our code and make it so that it's, you know, compatible with TypeScript. So cool. This has now been installed. So what we're going to do next is go back to our project structure here. Underneath source, we're going to add a new folder called DB. Inside of this DB folder here, we're going to be creating a file called schema.ts. And so let's see here. We're going to go back to Auth.js here, scroll down and find, where is it? We're going to go back to Auth.js here and go under Drizzle to basically wrap everything up here. So we already have our Drizzle ORM, so we're going to need to install this Drizzle adapter so that Auth.js can work with Drizzle. So we're going to do npm I install this. So by the way, if you notice why there's npm install and npm I here, they're both equivalent statements there. So you don't have to worry about that. We already set up our environment variables there. And so what we're going to need inside of our schema.ts file, which remember we put inside of our DB folder that we've created that's inside of source, we're just going to copy this, all of this here. You can see we have our authentificators, our verification tokens, sessions, accounts, and most importantly, user information here. So this is all the stuff that we're going to be storing within our database. So we're just going to stick all that in there. It seems like we need to install Postgres because it's not actually in there. So let's see if they have the actual command for it. Let me check that out real quick. Okay, so I just did npm I Postgres to install Postgres, so we get rid of this little issue here. Then we need to go back to our auth.ts here, and actually not our auth.ts because we put everything within auth config. So if you're using auth config like me, you're not going to put it within this next auth. So we're going to go back to our auth.config.ts here, and just like I was saying, there's more configs to go here. We are going to need to add our Drizzle adapter. What we're going to need to do to this schema.ts, since inside of our Drizzle ORM here, we're going to be doing something more like this. We're not going to be doing all of this stuff. So, as it turns out, we actually don't need these things. And we're going to need to actually create our DB variable here, our instance of Drizzle, so that we can use that within our auth.js code. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file called drizzle.ts here. And we're going to basically follow what we have here. So we're going to import, well, first we're going to import Drizzle from Drizzle ORM / I'm gonna look for neon HTTP. Yep, so that, and then we're gonna import neon from at neon database / serverless. We're gonna do const SQL equals neon process .env. So we're gonna be pulling from our environments.local here. I just pull this database here. So we're gonna paste that in there. And again, it's gonna say it can't have string or undefined just because it doesn't know at runtime whether or not this environment variable exists. So we're just gonna say that we definitely put it in there. So we now have our neon instance. Now we need to provide that to our drizzle. So there's that. Let's see, did I forget anything else? We need to export this DB. That's why. And let's see. We need to be able to provide a schema to our drizzle. So we already have this schema defined in the schema.ts. So what we can do is, and we could import each individual thing, but I'll just do star as schema from /schema here. So import star as schema. So that means import everything that's been exported here within this file, and then alias it as schema. And what we're gonna do is provide that to drizzle, so that drizzle knows what our schema is. So the reason that it's just simpler to write star as schema instead of importing in users, accounts, blah, 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 all of these different variables, and then sticking them all into here. We just do star as schema and then provide it into drizzle in this way. Great. Let's see. We're going to go back to our auth config. So we're just going to clear down real quick, clear everything here, go back to our auth config.ts. We said that we were going to have more configs to put in here. We're going to follow what we did here, app adapter, and provide a drizzle adapter to allow for our Auth.js to work with drizzle. So we're going to do adapter, drizzle adapter, and we're going to need to import it. So we're going to do import drizzle adapter from at auth drizzle adapter here. And this is a function. I'm just going to take in db, and we need to import our db, and we'll just do @/db/drizzle, and we'll put that there. So it's an ABC order. And then we're going to need to specify some of the things within our auth that we declared in our schema and provide it to our adapter here. So what we're going to need is accounts from the schema. And again, we're just going to do @ here. So we're going to provide it in this way. And I'll just separate out our third-party libraries from stuff that we've created, just so it's more clear. We're going to need session tables, which will be, let's see, sessions, and users table, which is going to be users, also from DB schema. And last but not least, verification tokens table, which is verification tokens. Great, and we're going to provide a comma here. And basically, that's pretty much it for our auth config, which, remember, we're taking our auth config that we defined here and stuck it into our next auth instance here. Great. Let's just verify. Oh, by the way, if you wanted to know why I was doing that, I was just following my sample code here, but this explains to you what we were providing here: accounts table, session table, user tables, and verification tokens table, and just pulling that stuff from our schema files, right? Sessions, users, accounts, authenticators. I believe, actually, we didn't use that. We used verification tokens. That's it. Great. And let's see here. Do we need to do this? I don't think we need to do this. We're going to be doing this actually in a different way. So, if you look inside of our Neon console, and if we go under tables, you can see that our, once it actually loads, oops. There we go. You can see that we don't have any tables yet, so we need to actually get our schema that we specified here into our Neon database. So one of the ways that we can do this is to follow what Auth.js said and create a migration TS file, but I think that there's an easier way. And let's see if I can so a way that we can do it is within our package.json. We are going to create the following commands. So we're going to create db generate, which will be a npx drizzle kit. If you remember, we installed that as a dev dependency. You can see there it is, drizzle kit under our dev dependencies. And we are going to generate. The reason that we installed it as a dev dependency and not an actual dependency is that we only use drizzle kit to migrate and update our database. It's not a command that's going to be used in production. And so that's why we don't really need drizzle kit in production. And so that's why we're not having it as a actual application dependency. We're only going to need it in our development environment. Cool. And then we're going to do db migrate. So first we're going to generate, oh my goodness, migrate. We're going to, whoops, no trailing commas. We're going to generate our database schema, and then we're going to migrate it to make sure that it gets put into our Neon database. So we're just going to run those two commands, and hopefully everything will work out. So we're going to do npm run. So remember that we did npm run dev to be able to start our server. We're just going to do the same thing, but do db generate here. And let's see. Oh, we have not created a drizzle config.json. So let's see if I can look for how to create that in our drizzle documentation. So under migrations here, basically we've done a lot of the different pieces here. What we're actually going to need is to create our drizzle config. I don't know why it says .json here. We're looking for drizzle config.ts. So we're just going to copy everything within here on the root of our project. So again, if we collapse everything and just go all the way down to the bottom here, just hit new file, create drizzle.config.ts, and just copy this stuff in here. Let's see, what is this particular issue here? So going through, we don't need most of this stuff here. We're just going to need URL process dot environment dot database URL. Cool. We are not using MySQL here. We're going to be using PostgreSQL there. We don't need an out. We need to let it know where the schema is. So it's not at source, but it is source/db. And we're going to do strict is true, verbose is true. And let's see, did I forget anything else? ABC order. Let's do this. We don't need to keep any of this because remember we're using a PostgreSQL database there. Looks like we have everything, so let's try this again. npm run db generate. Looks good. We have 5 tables here: account, authenticators, session, user, verification tokens. It generated a SQL migration, so just notice how we, in running that command and in declaring our schema in a way that looks like TypeScript, but under this folder here shows like, hey, this is the equivalent SQL. So that's what the Drizzle ORM does. It converts what we created within the schema folder, which looks a lot like TypeScript and is easier to use than writing out all of this SQL. It generates it for you. So we're gonna clear down. And we're going to do npm run, not generate now, but migrate instead. And let's see, URL is not defined. Let's see, what's wrong here? Process.env.database URL. It seems I've forgotten. I need to do our .environment. So we're going to do config from .environment and do config path to actually let this file know where it's pulling its environment variables from the database URL here. We're going to run migrate again, and we actually have our URL. Really quickly, it said that it was done. Let's verify that we have it. If we refresh this page, there we go. We have account, authenticator, session, user, verification tokens, and if you see along here, it has all of the different columns that are specified. I'm going to go through the user real quick because we're going to be using it a lot. So with user, there's a ID that's provided for each user. There's a name, email, the fact that the email has been verified or not, a URL to an image, which is usually your profile picture, and then there's an account table, an authenticator, and a session that's related to each user. So cool. We've set up our database, and we have all of our database tables set up. We have Drizzle here, so let me just verify that we are ready to create our login page and actually test our authentication. So we have our Drizzle done, we have our schema, we have everything pushed, we have our configs all set up. So it looks like we're ready to just actually create our login page. So let's get right to that. Okay, so let's create our login page. So what we can do is, just because the login is probably going to be a standalone page and it's not going to share any styles with anything else, we can just create a folder login to reserve that URL. We're going to do page.tsx, and we're going to be adding a lot of styles to it. So first off, we're going to do const login page, and we're going to remember to export defaulted because I often forget. We're going to return first. Oh my god. We're going to do a div and do class name. Actually, let's just do login real quick just to show that we actually have the login page. So let's run our server. I don't need to do it in the terminal. We'll just do it here, just real quick. Make sure that everything's working. We're not going to home. We're going to login. I'm going to hit enter there. Navigate to it. Server run. There we go. We have login. Cool. So what we're going to do is actually we're going to do with braces here backticks. So backticks is right next to the 1 on your keyboard if you don't know where to find it. We're going to do bg dash angle brackets or no square brackets URL parentheses slash, and we're going to do $, curly braces, logo URL. So we're going to add our logo to just be the background of this page. So we're just going to have it cover the entirety. So in order to do that, we do bg-cover. We're going to have it start from the top, flex, all of our contents of it will be inside, and we're just going to have them all in a column orientation. So when we save that, let's see here. Did that work? Why did that not work? Let's see here. Maybe we have to add in some extra stuff. So we will do div class name flex dash column h dash full items center justify center width full z of 4. We're gonna have another inside div here, and we're gonna have it be class name h of full md h of auto md width of 420 p pixels, width of full, whoops, and we're gonna have some stuff go in the middle here. So we're gonna have like a little login piece here. So I'm actually going to put it inside of its own little container here, and actually make it a feature of our application. So we have features here where we did our email form. We're going to create a feature to do authentication, and inside of our authentication here, we're going to need to create components, just like in our email feature. We're going to add in a new button, and we're going to create something called login wrapper. And we're going to do .tsx here. We're going to do use client here. We're going to use the card to create our little login piece here. So we're going to do card content, card description. We're going to need card headers, and we're going to need the card title. And we just do that from @/components/UI/card. Great. Whoops. Then we're going to do export const login wrapper. And it's going to take in two things. So it's going to need a header description and a header label. So just like in our cards, if you remember earlier, it had a little header top and bottom. So we're going to need to provide those. So we're going to just do an interface to declare our props here, and that looks just about right. Next, we're going to use our card here and give it a class name of h-full padding bottom of 8, padding horizontal of 8, shadow of medium. So there's had a little shadow effect underneath the card. Card header here, which is going to have our card title with the header label and the description for our header description. So we just added those two pieces there. And then we're going to do a class name. Make sure that there's no padding on the sides there. So px-0. So that's going to be our little card header there, adding in card title, and applying the variable header label, and then doing the same for the description. Then we're going to do our card contents here, card content, sorry. We're going to give it a class name of padding bottom of 0, padding sides of 0, px of 0, space dash y of 5, and we're going to need to add in our 2 buttons to do our GitHub and our Google login. So I'm actually going to put that inside of its own component. So we're going to create our let's see, OAuth buttons.tsx. So we're going to do export const OAuth. Is it OAuth buttons? And we're going to add in a couple things in here. We're actually going to install something, or did we install it already? Let me check. Import FA GitHub. Did we have that from React icons? We did add it already, so we can do that. and grab in our 2 logos that we're going to use. Yeah, I remember when we created the mock login page, we did do that. We're also going to import sign in from next auth/react, and then we're going to need our button component there. Nope, that's not right. @/components/UI/button. Oops. Comma. We do not need this thing to be curly braces. Instead, we're going to use parentheses. We're going to put them together in a column. You could put them horizontally, but since we're not going to do username and password, we'll just make them have their own line. So we're going to do button. For them to be able to take up a whole line, we're going to do class name of with full. We're going to do on click here to do sign in Google. Thank you, Copilot. We're going to do FA or F? Oh, my source code, I used FC Google. We can go back later and change it and see which one we like more. I used FC Google in my starter code, so let's just go with that. MR-2, size of 5 here. And then, boop, do the same thing for GitHub. And we're actually going to say in these things, log in with Google, and then do the same thing for GitHub. Thank you, Copilot. Okay, so we're going to need to add these OAuth buttons to our login wrapper here, and then we're going to need to provide our login wrapper to our page. So login wrapper here, and welcome to Poke CRM. And sign in to your account. Let's see, yeah, there we go. That looks great. Let's see if this creates it. Okay, we got these things stacked up a little bit. So let's check in what happened here. Maybe we'll add a little gap Y of 2. See, so that provides a little bit of separation. Okay, so for some reason this logo URL isn't working, so we'll just replace that with pokecrm.jpg, and when we do, we have our cute little logo there in the background. And you know, if you think that this is a little bit too intrusive, we can provide a little filter here in the bottom. So outside of this flex column div, we're just going to add in another div that's closed here. A little trick that I saw from another tutorial. They used like a little gradient container here, empty container. So I'm not going to really... So providing a gradient, 180 degrees, comma, RGBA, 0, 0, oh, one more 0. So this is why it's good that I'm checking it, because it can be a little complicated. No spaces between any of these things. It's all one statement. We're going to provide an RGBA 0, 0, 0, 0.4. And no spaces. RGBA 0, 0, 0. Actually, I don't think that you're supposed to add in this extra 0 here. So we'll just remove these zeros here. Just 0.8, just 0.4, just 0.8 here. Parentheses, close it out. Fixed in set of 0, z of 1. And let's see if that worked. Let me refresh this. Let's see. Did I type anything in incorrectly? RGBA. So these aren't, this isn't highlighting. Oh, it's RGBA. There we go. There we go. So you can see it's kind of darker. It makes it a little tinted, if you will. So in case you didn't like it for being a little bit too bright, right? That's what it looked like before. Adding this in, you're adding just a little filter in, and because this thing has a Z of 4, it sits on the top level over this Z index of 1. Cool. So let's see if this will actually work. In the last recording, if we now log in with Google, let's see, there we go. We can choose one of our accounts and we can log in and hopefully get so we won't get redirected actually because let's see, sign in, and we'll just go back to our login page. So we actually need to redirect from our login page, and we're actually going to do a lot of redirects. So just in case you were already logged in but you went back to the landing page and home screen, well, if you're already logged in, you can skip that, just go straight to home, and from home we need to be able to protect it from unauthorized users, right? So if you are not logged in and you tried to navigate to home, it should bounce you back to the login page. We should also be able to sign out from our home page. So let's get started on that. So we haven't created a way to actually log out just yet. So if you might be wondering how we actually log out of it, we're going to do API/auth sign out here. And if we click on that, you're going to get this little custom created sign out page. We're not going to be using it for any reasons other than just for debugging reasons. But if you just needed to know that you signed out, just hit sign out here and you're signed out. It'll take you back to the login because that's what we specified in, which one was it? Yeah, in our app config. So sign in was login, so it just goes back over there, right? Another thing is, see, we're using API here, so we're going to provide a little sneak peek at being able to access things via API. If we go to API/auth/providers, it should let us know right there that we have a GitHub and Google provider. So because we know that we're logged out now, we're just going to try to log in with GitHub, and we can authorize it with this. It's actually not going to work because I already logged in once with Google, but this just lets you see what the GitHub page looks like. So if we try to authorize this and we go back, there's going to be an error here, right, that, hey, another account was already linked with the same email address. So cool. But that showed you that at least the GitHub authorization went through. It's just that if you started with that, it would be fine. Now, let's say that you actually really wanted to test out GitHub, and honestly, that's a pretty good, smart idea. One of the ways that we can do that, since we already logged in with Google, and this is also a good way to demonstrate that we actually have our user information recorded into our database here. So when I logged in, had my personal email added, I had my name, have the little image URL that you can use to get the profile picture for the account, an ID that's provided for it, so that if you ever wanted to reference a user by ID, that's one way of doing it. You can grab their name, their email, image by just pulling it from the database. It's all given, in this case, by Google, right? And if we wanted to test out GitHub, we can do that by just deleting this record, then kind of refreshing this, go back to GitHub, and oh, it's because we need to sign out. So API sign out, log in with GitHub. Oh, why is this not redirecting? Let me check this out. Okay, I realized why. So because we already did the attempt with GitHub before and it failed, but I guess underneath the hood, GitHub already noticed that you gave authorization to this account to do it. It just kind of saves it as a cookie. So like when we log in with GitHub, you can actually see here when we just click on that, it does its little redirect here. If we refresh our database here, we can actually see that we still get our email name, a different ID if you like backed up in the video and looked at it, and if you looked at the image URL, right, and you can even see here GitHub user content, right, there's the URL to your profile picture within GitHub. It has it in there. So if you were to do it from a base level, you'd hit login with GitHub, you would have the information within stored within your database. So there we go, just showing that GitHub works. If we delete this, we can go back in with Google, sign in with this account again, goes back to our login. If we refresh our database here, you can see now added in. We have the Google contents for the image URL, and then a different ID. Cool. Awesome. So let's actually go back, create our homepage, and do all of the authorization redirects, protect our routes, all that good stuff. Okay, so let's clear down here and go back. We have a lot of different stuff now within our files, so we can always hit the collapse folders in editor to kind of close everything, make it so that things are manageable again. So remember that we have our landing page here. We're not going to go into that just yet. Actually, I will add in one thing here within our landing page. We'll just do a little to-do here and just say implement redirect if already logged in. Where is our, oh, here it is, login here. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to add in a little to-do implement redirect if already, actually, implement redirect if already logged in. So we want these accessible to any potential user, right? But if the user is already logged in, we'll redirect them to the home page. And if they're in the home page, which we're going to be working on now, we're going to do redirect to login if not logged in.